Good morning and welcome to this Euractiv conference on the importance of Azerbaijan to the EU, which path to develop deeper relations. Now, today's conference is supported by the Azerbaijani mission to the EU. In the Caucasus, political stability in recent years has allowed the region to experience strong and consistent economic growth. More recently, big energy infrastructure projects such as the Southern Gas Corridor and the East-West Corridor have also underlined the strategic importance the region represents to its European neighbourhood. Azerbaijan, the biggest country in the Caucasus, has played a constructive role in furthering economic ties with the EU, becoming a key partner to states in the region. The recent reigniting of a cross-border conflict in the Nagorno-Karabakh region of Azerbaijan has shifted attention to underlying political tensions, and this at a time when the imminent completion of the Southern Gas Corridor project is due to increase the country's share of energy imports to the EU. So thanks for joining this Euractiv conference this morning to discuss the strategic importance of the Caucasus region to the EU and how deeper relations can be forged in the coming years. Our speakers today, Marina Kalurand, member of the European Parliament, and she's the chair of the European Parliament's delegation for relations with the Southern Caucasus, and Amanda Paul, senior policy analyst at the European Policy Centre, and Ambassador Fuad Iskandarov, he's the head of mission at the Mission of Azerbaijan to the EU. Good morning to all of you. Thanks so much for joining us. Just to say to our audience, if you want to contribute today, use hashtag EA debates, and our social media team will tag you in those comments as well. And also for the Q&A today, I've just opened the Q&A panel. Please send us your questions now and throughout the conversation this morning. We'll put those to the panelists. And if you can tell us who you are and where you're from, that would be useful for us as well. So use the Q&A section, which you can see in front of you as well. So Marina Kalurand, MEP, you want to kick off with a short introductory statement?
Yes, thank you. With pleasure. First of all, thank you for having me in this discussion. And I'm really sorry that we're not discussing South Caucasus, also with other partners, but we're talking only about Azerbaijan. But that's a decision of the organizers. And also, I would like to say that I'm not MEP only. I'm former Estonian foreign minister. I've been Estonian ambassador to many countries, including Russia. And I come from Estonia, which means that I do think I have pretty good historic understanding of that region. And for more than 50 years, we were in the same Soviet Union, whether we wanted it or not. Now to the topic. The emphasis during the introduction was so much on economy. But I would like to say that today we're having the discussion on the day when European Parliament awards Sakharov Prize to the opposition of Belarus, democratic opposition of Belarus. And for me, that is the key, how the relations between EU, Azerbaijan, EU and other Eastern Partnership countries should develop based on democratic reforms, democratic institutions, and then comes economy. And I'll be happy to elaborate later.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the introduction. Broad perspective, and yes, we'll be talking about human rights in the context of the rule of law and the rules-based economy as well. So thank you. Amanda Paul, 2 minutes.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thanks for the invitation. First of all, I would like to start with that relations between the EU and Azerbaijan. There's been many ups and downs in this relationship over the years, but I think Baku's strategic partnership with the EU is an important one, an enduring one. Over the past couple of decades, Azerbaijan has actually proven to be a reliable and partner for the EU. When we look at the region, I would say it has been a regional trailblazer in terms of developing initiatives for transport and energy flows and taking steps to make itself a transport and logistics. As you mentioned a couple of days ago, or a few days ago, the first gas arrived in Italy from via TAP and the Southern Energy Corridor. And these projects not only enhanced the strategic importance not only of Azerbaijan, but of the South Caucasus, and of to shore up EU energy security. And if we look ahead, of course, finalizing the new partnership agreement between the EU and Azerbaijan should be the priority is going to take relations to a new level. But if we look at the impact of COVID-19, This makes it, more important that the EU reassesses supply chains. Therefore, connectivity has become more important vis-a-vis the neighbourhood. And here we could see that EU businesses could look to Azerbaijan and other countries in the South Caucasus and the region that has the potential to produce high standards. And also, I'd say the recent, the recent Karabakh war is also not only for the EU to become an important, reconstruction and rehabilitation in the region, but potentially for a lot of, foreign investors, numerous new opportunities with the EU could become involved. And I think this is for the region, but for the cooperation between the EU and Azerbaijan. I hope that wasn't more than 2 minutes.
No, you're right on target. Thank you so much. Ambassador Iskandarov.
Very briefly, first of all, very glad to see Marina and Amanda here and all my friends from Euractiv. Thank you for this opportunity to meet and discuss the issues. Just one remark, and then I will start. It's not a cross-border conflict between Azerbaijan and Armenia. It's a conflict happened on the territory of Azerbaijan. That's why it's not a cross-border conflict, and we didn't, cross the borders between Azerbaijan and Armenia. So, concerning the current situation and the importance of the relations with Azerbaijan, EU-Azerbaijan relations, fully agree with Madame Marina Kalurand, good friend of our parliament, that it is not just the economical dimension, it's a political one. And of course, the main difference between other Eastern Partnership countries is, and Azerbaijan, is that we started based on the very strong economical ties, and then based on it, we are developing a political agenda of our relations. We think that it's a more pragmatic approach, and we are very happy, for example, that just in the beginning of December, the first molecules of Azerbaijani gas delivered to Italian market. It's an exceptionally positive foundation for development of relations. I would like just to mention that the best project in the world, the peace project, political project in the world, EU has started as a union of coal and steel, economical union, and then it became the common space of common values. That's why I think that it's good, and I think that European Union has crucial importance now, because as a peace model, after the Second World War, it could play exceptional role in the processes of reconciliation and reconstruction in the entire region. I agree with Madame Kalurand concerning that, yes, it should be most about the Southern Caucasus, but Southern Caucasus, one of the main engine of Southern Caucasus, economical engine of Southern Caucasus, is Azerbaijan. That's why maybe it's really good to start from Azerbaijan, then go to other countries, and then go to entire Southern Caucasus, and because the peace model, reconstructive reanimation model, the Marshall Plan of Europe, as crucially requested, welcome in the region now after the war. Thank you.
Ambassador, thank you. Marina Kalurand, I want to get to the rule of law element through the economics as well. Ambassador's right, the pragmatism of dealing on the economics of this first, unless Europe engages on the economic platform, there's no point in talking about human rights because there's simply no leverage as well. But we're in an era now where the lending of large organizations like the European Investment Bank for infrastructure projects is becoming increasingly contingent on the rule of law application and certain types of reforms taking place within countries. And we see this within Europe now as well, Hungary and Poland being held on the hook as well in terms of getting European money internally. So how do you see Europe's strategic relationship with Azerbaijan and with the Caucasus generally. Are we moving in the right direction? Is our capacity to deal with this where it should be right now?
Yes, interesting introduction. I'd like to assure that we're not keeping Hungary and Poland on a hook for getting European money. We just introduced rule of law mechanism, which is the basis of the EU, which each and every EU member state agrees to when joining the community. Now, coming more precisely to a question, yes, and economy is crucial. But even if I look at the priorities and the partnership priorities that have been agreed between EU and Azerbaijan, then the first one is strengthening institutions and good governance. Second one is the economic development with emphasis of diversification of economy of Azerbaijan. Because what we see that the lack of the diversification of the economy, its emphasis on oil and gas might impact economic development of Azerbaijan from 2021 to 2025. That's what international experts say. Then we come to connectivity, including South Corridor, and the final mobility, people-to-people contacts. So I think we have to look at all those topics comprehensively. Now, I didn't have time to say it before, but on what are the conditions or what are the main elements of further development of EU and Azerbaijani relations? And I would say that it's very much in the hands of Azerbaijan today. I agree we have to have a good new partnership agreement, but it will very much depend on the peaceful solution of the future negotiations of Nagorno-Karabakh. We can't avoid elephant in the room. It has changed significantly, the picture in the South Caucasus. And I'm happy that at the moment there is peace in that region, but that's not the final solution. Parties have to come together, they have to find final solution. And second is, of course, how much Azerbaijan wants to continue with democratic reforms, because Azerbaijan has huge potential, economic potential, political potential, but it's in their hands to decide how much do they want to continue with democratic reforms. And that's, as I said in my initial statement, that's the basis for deeper relations with the EU.
Ambassador, Marina picks up about diversification of the economy. When the gas infrastructure projects began, there was no mention of the Green Deal. And today, and part of the approach to this corridor was to make Europe less dependent on Russian gas as well. But we're coming to an era where Europe wants to be less dependent on gas, full stop. So the value of this corridor to Azerbaijan has effectively diminished, even though it's still of huge potential value. So, this diversification of the economy requires a different governance structure. And how do you see this reform process developing within Azerbaijan? Or is there a commitment to move more firmly towards a European-style rules-based economy?
First of all, I would like to stress that the Southern Gas Corridor is not just an economical project. It's only one project in Eastern Partnership countries, which is combining together member states of EU, Italy, Greece, the candidate countries, Albania, Turkey, associated partner, Georgia, and the strategic partner in energy, Azerbaijan. And as well as Bulgaria will be connected to this project as well. And we are planning about developing of this project to Balkan countries. So it is a real multilateral project, which is not just a sponsoring one from EU side, but it's a very profitable one for all sides and for all the companies. Dozens of companies have been involved. Already 5,000 working places have been created in Greece. So it is something which is really tangible for everyday life of the people. And secondary, it is really a project of interdependence, constructive interdependence of the different countries in neighborhood and strengthening neighborhood with European Union. That's why I think the political importance of the project is crucial. Concerning the Green Deal, it was a request of European Union, and just recently European Union has a very strong statement supporting the first delivery of gas, because we still depend, as understood, the EU still depends on gas and other energy sources. It's not so negative, it has not so negative impact on the environment as, for example, coal or oil or others. But in any case, I think we did help to our European friends with the climate, because all the requirements have been kept. Second option is it is just a basis. Diversification of economy is crucial, and I just would like to inform you, even in COVID times, our transportation over our territory has doubled. Imagine, it's something really interesting. And the train from Shanghai to Venlo, Netherlands, already reached the destination just recently. And we are looking forward to make it one of the best hub between West and East, opening the doors for Europe, for the global Asia. It's not a one road, one belt, as can I say. No, it's not only one road, one belt. They have some elements, but this is one of the lines of diversification. And a third thing, which is I would like to mention, that it's not only the west-east dimension, it's also north-south, direct railways and motorways going from the Scandinavian countries to the Gulf. It's a much more sufficient way of transportation. And we're very happy that even in COVID times we managed to find such kind of diversification of our economy. And of course, other spheres. We have our so-called Marshall Plan for liberated territories, and we will invite the best companies to participate in these processes. And concerning the political and economical reforms that are going together, we did have a lot in our agenda, very serious dimensions. And I think that if we will do it without or with participation of Europe, it seems sometimes that we need our agreement with European Union more than European Union needs agreement with Azerbaijan. Please don't compare. Azerbaijan is only one country in the region which has the capacity and both has the wish to return politically European Union to the region. As Vice President Borrell said, European Union unfortunately is not on the ground now. It's not politically on the ground. But we want to return our friends from European Union.
Okay, let me ask Amanda Paul about this as well. This perspective that the ambassador just highlighted, how much does Europe need Azerbaijan at this moment? Is this a case of interdependence? Is this a case of everybody prospering together, a real win-win scenario? What does this mean in terms of how we develop this strategic relationship as well? Amanda Paul.
Yeah, I think that Azerbaijan is an important partner. It's been repeated by the different elements of EU member state heads, that Azerbaijan's an important partner. Of course, this has mainly been up to the issue of energy security, as has been mentioned, but also it's important for the EU to have countries in its neighborhood remain, let's say, stable and over periods of time, and against the backdrop, of course, of the Karabakh conflict. Overall, Azerbaijan remained quite predictable and dependable in this region. It's also played an important as this corridor between other key partners of the EU, namely Georgia and Turkey. But I mean, for the EU, the key issue here is maintaining a secure and stable neighbourhood, which doesn't create any, let's say, national threats for the EU itself or its member states. And I think in this respect, Azerbaijan has been playing a positive role. Of course, the Southern Energy Corridor has been, let's say, the sort of cherry on the cake in terms of between the two. So I think Azerbaijan does remain and will remain an important partner for the EU. And we can see this also due to the commitment of the EU to continue the negotiation for a new agreement, because once this agreement is finalized, this will be very soon. It will be a win-win actually for both sides.
Okay. Marina Kalyan, as a former foreign minister as well, and the proximity that you have to Russia, how do you view the Russian participation in this region? Amanda's just spoken about stability in the neighborhood. Russia would seem to be an agitator in the neighborhood, which is not that interested in stability, especially when its gas market is being rerouted and it stands to lose out there as well. Do you see the role of Russia and Armenia, for example?
Yes, I can say as a former diplomat and former foreign minister, yes, we see that Russia has its interests in its neighborhood. Yes, I'm not saying that Russia wants to create Soviet Union. No, nothing like that. But Russia wants to keep its influence and its interests in the region, Eastern Partnership region. Because look what we have today. We have parts of Ukraine occupied. We have parts of Georgia occupied. We have turmoils in different Eastern Partnership countries. In Nagorno-Karabakh, Russia was supplying weapons to both sides. Today, Russia's military and police are doing peacekeeping, but I will be very honest. I'd feel more comfortable if the peacekeeping would be done by OSCE or EU mission like we're doing in Georgia. So, of course, Russia has its influence in the region. And I don't want to tell any country to choose between either or. Any country has to decide its future, and any country has to decide with whom they want to build political relations, economic relations. EU is offering our way, and it's up to each and every country. So when I listened to the ambassador who said that EU is not present, I don't agree. I would argue that EU is very present in all Eastern Partnership countries. Yes, maybe we do not have boots on the ground at the moment, and we will not have boots on the ground. We are not a military organization. But if you look at the development cooperation, if you look at the assistance programs, if you look at the people-to-people contact, if you look at Erasmus programs we are offering to Eastern Partnership, then we are very present. Should we be more focused? Yes, I agree. We should be more active and more focused. And at the moment, in the situation of Nagorno-Karabakh, yes, I do see that EU can have a more stronger leading role facilitating humanitarian crisis that is still happening on the territory and facilitating return of people, which is also happening on the territory of Nagorno-Karabakh. EU did not have official role during the peace negotiations or in the Minsk process. We were partly represented in the Minsk group. But yes, I agree that now is the time for EU to be more active and to participate in the reconciliation, in rebuilding, in returning Nagorno-Karabakh to normal life, and also continuing negotiations on the status of Nagorno-Karabakh, because that is not the final status, what's happening there. It's the result of a war. Now negotiations have to start.
I just want to gloss over this subject. I asked specifically about Russia and Russian influence in this conflict as well. Do you think Russia is an agitator in this conflict?
I have to recognize that Russia was the one who brought peace to the region, and I recognize it, and I think that everybody is grateful. But what I want to say is that that's not the end of the road. That's not the end of negotiations. Now negotiations under the Minsk group should start, and they should be pragmatic. they should be oriented, they should bring parties together. And unfortunately, that is something I do not see today. I do not see enough will on Armenian and Azerbaijani side to come to negotiations. But to repeat once again, yes, I recognize Russia's efforts in stopping killing, in stopping war and bringing peace after it provided weapons to both sides.
Ambassador, do you want to respond to that? First of all, do you agree Russia supplied weapons to both sides? Secondly, do you see Russia as an agitator or a partner for peace in the region?
First, about the supplying the weapons. We bought these weapons. We paid for these weapons. In case of Armenia, it was delivered, without any payment as their ally, a military ally, and a member of one military union led by Russia. That's why I can't imagine that Armenia could pay for this weapon because, for example, all destructed weapons in Armenia, Armenian weapons which have destructed on the territory of Azerbaijan, the total price is more than 3 billion. It's even more than the budget of Armenia now. So it is the story about the weapons. It is a story about who is dealing how. We are paying and buying, but Russia is not a number one, military exporter in our country. We do have another ones, and our military dependence on Russia is not so crucial as, for example, in case of Armenia. Concerning the issues, I would like just to especially mention the issue of the post-war reconciliation. I would like to express my gratitude to Madame Kaluran for her, expressing the EU approach to be more active in participation in reconciliation and reconstruction of the entire region. But generally, I think that if you speak about the status, of course, is something, I mean, the normal life of the people is crucial. And I think we need the time for some kind of reconciliation, and Azerbaijani Armenian people, citizens of Azerbaijan, they will find the solution of this matter themselves. The invitation to such kind of negotiations could happen only in case if we are welcoming to the table of negotiations. I would like to say that the EU partly hasn't been presented, even partly, on this negotiation process. France, as a member state of EU, is, co-chair, but has no capacity to introduce and to present European Union. That's why European Union hasn't been on the ground. It is in Georgia, it is in Moldova, it's fine. Some member states are in Ukraine, but in case of Azerbaijan, there are 3 co-chairs, and that's all. Well, that's why during this war, we didn't feel any political presence, and we do hope that it could be possible. And I would like again to stress that only one country in the region sincerely want to have EU politically, as a political actor in the region. We do have it as an economical actor. Humanitarian aid, it's fine. We have a 40 billion project. We have the best trade turnover with European Union member states. So it's not a story. But we speak about the political influence. And I don't think my words, it's the wording of Mr. Joseph Borrell. He said that politically we are not there and we should return. Okay, fine. If you want to return, to come back as a political actor, the country which could like to put the chair on the table for you, it will be only Azerbaijan, because we do have both capacity to do it.
Let me ask you, what does it mean to have a chair at the table? What does it mean for Europe to have a presence in Azerbaijan? How would you compare with Turkey's presence in the region, for example?
Turkey is the strategic partner of Azerbaijan in many spheres. We have a strategic council. We have our agreement on alignment. But Europe has signed 2 agreements with Georgia and Armenia. In case of Azerbaijan, negotiations completed have been completed approximately 90%, and the 90% of the text have been bolded. But generally, European Union has no agreement with Azerbaijan. I mean, new agreement with Azerbaijan.
Okay.
So it shows that EU has 2 political relations with 2 countries and nothing with the main.
What would you expect from European Union in terms of a political agreement? What would that look like?
I think it's mostly about the trade. Unfortunately, our trade partners in EU, they're thinking a little bit based on the matrix, very bureaucratic one, but they're not thinking strategically. This is really the bottleneck of all the connectivity lines to the east, and having this country on the board, having this bottleneck on the board of EU will be much more strategically important for us.
Okay, let me ask Amanda Paul about that. Amanda, Ambassador's saying this is, there's work being done there, but it's not strategic. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would more or less agree with the ambassador. That has been done. There is work that's going on, but they've sort of reached a sort of bottleneck that's now become it in the negotiations that seems to be increasingly difficult to overcome. I think there needs to be a bit of, pragmatism perhaps from both sides to finish this process, because this agreement is beneficial to Azerbaijan. It's also beneficial for the EU. So there needs to be stronger focus on getting to the end of the road. I know it's not always that easy. Once this agreement is finalized, I mean, it can bring with it important, economic reform. It's a roadmap in a way for reform as well. And if we look back,
explain to us what the agreement looks like. What does the roadmap look like?
The agreement itself. I mean, I'm not a top expert on the new agreement, but I mean, it covers different areas, economic and trade cooperation, security cooperation, education. I mean, it's climate change, all these sorts of things. But in terms of implementing this agreement to make it, let's say, profitable for both sides, that the EU has, there's sort of benchmarks that need to be met, which I think which would be positive for both sides. Also, to say that there has been a process of change going on in Azerbaijan. And we've seen a lot of the old established elites be removed for sort of new, younger, technocratical individuals who are now increasingly in different ministries, who are ministers, who are bringing, economic reform and other forms of reform into the country slowly. It is happening.
Okay, Ambassador, you wanted to respond to this?
Kind of attempt to blackmailing us. Okay, if we will have this agreement, it's fine. If we will not have this agreement, we will have we are not changing our location. We are not changing our dynamic and our reforms. I would like to especially notify that the team of Azerbaijani managing team has totally changed. It's a new team, new generation, and we have a lot of very interesting ideas with which we are working together with our partners all over the world. Europe is our close partner.
Just let me ask you about this new team. I want to bring Marina in just a moment. You say that the direction of a change is happening anyway. Yes, the agreement is important, you would like to get it done, but the trajectory that Azerbaijan's on is going that way anyway. If that's the case, what's the motivating factor? Why? What's the incentive for Azerbaijan to reform in this way with this new team that you discussed, if it's not about building relations with the EU?
We do have, please understand us correctly. We do have very interesting roadmaps in all the directions of our economy. It's a big, very big document, much more bigger than our agreement with EU, and our wish to reform, to develop, to diversify our economy, to go with a new approach to the values, to the democratic reforms, political reforms. It is going in any case. So we will be happy to have our European friends with their great experience, with their great technologies, educational systems. But it will happen in any case. Where Azerbaijan has a much more wider choice than any other Eastern Partnership country. For example, in case of others, they are the representing of different dimensions, but generally connected with the Western partners. We have friends in Turkish world. We now have a presidency in Turkish Council. We have a presidency in the non-alignment movement, just for information. We are members of Organization of Islamic Cooperation. We have exceptional relation with the countries as, for example, with Israel, having exceptional and positive relation with Arab world as well. So we do have very balanced, and we do have a lot of choices to be chosen, and that's why I do not accept that Azerbaijani development is based only on cooperation with EU.
Okay,
EU
thank
is
you.
priority.
I will come back. Sorry, just finish your sentence. Yes, go ahead. EU is a
EU is a priority. One of them would like to, as my president said, to close to EU as much as possible, but it depends on EU. If they don't want to have us, we don't want to knock and to shake the doors of EU. It's not our story.
Okay, thank you. Marina, you wanted to remark, you wanted to respond.
Yes, just a couple of remarks. First, yes, Ambassador, absolutely. EU is not your only way. And EU never blackmails. I reiterate, EU never blackmails. EU can offer possibilities of cooperation and partnership. What happens then depends on Azerbaijan. Second, political presence in the region. I'm not speaking on behalf of Mr. Borrell. I'm representing European Parliament. And as you very well know, even during the most difficult times, I tried and I had contacts with my co-chair of the EU-Azerbaijan PCC, Javanshir Feyziev. So on the parliamentary level, we are keeping contacts. I'm sorry we're not meeting face-to-face, but the time will come. Third, agreement. It's a comprehensive agreement. I mentioned all the four paragraphs before, or four subjects before. I'm not going to repeat them. And I'm really happy to hear that you have changed some of your people and you're continuing on the way of reforms, because what I see today, Azerbaijan ranks number 146 out of 167 countries in the latest Economist Intelligence Unit Democracy Index. Ambassador, there's a lot of room for improvement. So what I want to say, it's not only economy, it's comprehensive. It has all those pillars, and all those pillars build strong relationship between our EU and Azerbaijan if there is will and interest on the Azerbaijani side. And finally, don't underestimate EU's role in Azerbaijan. EU is the largest foreign grant donor and investor. EU is Azerbaijan's first trading partner, with almost 50% of Azerbaijani total trade coming to the EU. And when we were talking about oil and gas, the Southern Gas Corridor provides 5% of EU's oil demand. So let me say it's marginal. But that's why we do not need only economic cooperation, we need much more comprehensive, wider, and we're committed to that.
Before I hand back to the ambassador, I'm sure you want to respond to some of that. Marina, the idea that Europe is slow to act, that there's a bottleneck here, it's not just about Azerbaijan in this instance. We know that Turkey, Erdogan in particular, has strong ambitions to expand his influence and Turkey's influence in the region as well. And that Europe has a long history of being, and the European Union has a long history of being too slow to act. And Russia in Ukraine is a good example. We allow our strategic opponents to advance too far, too quickly, and then find it very hard to recover that lost opportunity. And is this not the same case with Azerbaijan, that we're allowing other players in the region to move too quickly?
Brian, I agree to you 100%. And trust me, when I was Estonian foreign minister and I was sitting in the Foreign Ministers' Council, I was so disappointed many times when the bureaucracy, we were discussing, and we could not come to the results. And maybe one of the examples is also how we introduced sanctions against Lukashenko. It took us several months before we were able to agree. But the positive side is, once we agree, we speak in one voice. So even if sometimes I may be disappointed with the strength of the message or the reaction or the slowness of reactions, I want to appreciate and recognize once we decide, we speak as one, we act as one bloc, and that's a very big thing.
Ambassador, you've a lot to choose from. How do you choose to respond there?
Yes, I can respond. Just first, about ranking. The ranking is the worst thing which could be provided now. Because when we are speaking about the ranking, okay, associated partners, non-associated partners, it's about the, when you have a ranking, you have a differentiation, you have a different approach. That's why if our distinguished member of European Parliament said about our position concerning the human rights, agree we have a lot of things to do. But generally, if you see, for example, ranking in economical development, economical and political development provided by a World Economic Forum, Estonia and Azerbaijan are just nearby each other. Just nearby each other. Its Azerbaijani position is the highest among all Eastern Partnership countries. And it's a very good basis for the developing of, strong political development, reforms. Frankly speaking, when you have a war and 1 million of refugees, it's really in the country with the mostly Muslim population, being secular country, be a very, very tolerant country, it's really difficult to avoid the spaces of radicalism in case of providing democratic reforms. That's why now I think it's the best time for democratic reforms in Azerbaijan, because we want to make it synchronically. Economy and democracy, they should go together and provide a better life and better future for us. Concerning the, you mentioned the active role of EU on the ground, humanitarian aid, with financial support, we're on the last position among the Eastern Partnership countries, and we're not concerning about it. It's not a
okay.
Issue. Just for your information.
Marina, then I want to bring Amanda in. Marina, you wanted to clarify?
No, I was just saying that I was speaking on behalf of European Parliament when I said political cooperation. I was speaking personally on my role and how I've cooperated with your Parliament. I'm not speaking on behalf of Borrell.
Okay, that's fine. Amanda Paul, is the ambassador right to say it's economy first? Because if you don't have the economy going forward, you can't provide the jobs, the stability that you need for your people to support you without democratic chaos as well. Is there progress towards democracy? Is there progress towards human rights, which is conditional on a strong economy in Azerbaijan?
Well, I mean, I think obviously economic development is important in Azerbaijan, particularly now following, the COVID-19 pandemic, which has hit, Azerbaijan, other countries in the region very badly. There's a need to improve in the country, which is recognized by the population more and more. This is in hand with, increased democratization, fundamentals, and you can see in Azerbaijan, there's an increasing goals from society to improve democracy in the country. Slowly, this has been responded to, as we've already mentioned, myself, Ambassador, that there have been, important changes in key positions in different ministries, including Ministry of Economy, etc., and also in the president. Some of the people who were working there for actually decades, half a century, and maybe in some cases new blood, which will bring a positive change in the country. But of course, the EU's role is important. I mean, it's not, thing. I mean, it's part of a process. But the EU does have an important role in the country because the EU is not the only actor now. There's increasing focus coming from.
With this point, is it realistic for
countries?
Amanda? Is it realistic for Europe to bang the drum for human rights, rightly so, but to make everything that it does in terms of strategic economic development, strategic partnerships, conditional on human rights and political reform? Is this a wish list, or is that the reality that Azerbaijan has to face?
Yeah, I think there has to be an element of pragmatism in this relationship. If they link everything to do with improving economic to very speedy progress in other areas, this could perhaps be a very slow process. And we've seen that the EU has already quite a pragmatic approach in terms of these corridors. But I think also one of the issues sometimes doesn't understand the regional dynamics of and other parts of the Eastern Partnership. There's a lack of understanding of how other external players, so Iran and Turkey, play into the purposes, which does have an impact
let me ask
on the
Ambassador
internal
about this as well.
processes in these countries.
Let me ask Ambassador about this. Ambassador, you mentioned Israel as a strong partner. Israel supplies arms to your country as well, as far as I'm aware. Turkey is a strong supporter there. There's a proxy war of which you're part at this point. It's Russia, Iran lined up on one side, Israel and Turkey on the other. Would you see it that way?
Can you assess the country which is leading in so many international organizations, for example, in non-alignment movement, 127 countries, or in Turkish Council, as a country which could be assessed as a proxy? Believe me, it is not true. It is not a proxy war, totally not. It was our war, our patriotic war, to liberate our territories, and that is, we do it with a strong political, first of all, political support of our Turkish friends, of our non-alignment movement, of Organization for Islamic Cooperation. And I would like to express my gratitude to European Union institutions, which always supported internationally recognized borders, territorial integrity of my country. And that's why we didn't violate the rule of law, which is the main dimension in European Union. That's why it's not a proxy war. It's a war for territory and for the rule of international law, the rule of law, which is always stressed by European Union. That's why it's about the war. And if you ask me about other issues, again, please be informed that Azerbaijan is the country which will provide this political, economical, democratic reforms in any case, with agreement or without agreement with European Union.
Okay,
but
thank you, Ambassador. Thank you, Ambassador. I want to bring Amanda Paul back in then, Marina. Amanda,
yeah, I just wanted to comment actually on Turkey. I mean, I think the situation that we find ourselves in now, in a way with Turkey, could have been avoided. For example, if there had been more engagement side of the EU. I mean, the role that Turkey now plays in the South Caucasus, and not only Caucasus, I mean, if there'd been more engagement and dialogue, and of course this can still happen between Turkey on foreign policy in the neighbourhood, where there's significant common interests. I think the EU could have actually played a different in the recent, let's say, Nagorno-Karabakh war. But I mean, also to remind the audience, because Turkey is always portrayed these days, you know, as this bad actor, you know, comparable to, you know, Russia or something else. Back in the day, it was Turkey that actually initiated and was the strongest actor in its efforts to bring all three countries in the South Caucasus and was the one backing the European integration and their integration in all of these international organizations. So I think the fact that the relationship between the EU and Turkey to the very low point that we find ourselves at today has really undermined the EU's ability regional dialogue with Turkey on issues of concern, including in the South Caucasus, which is very disappointing and counterproductive, I would say.
Thank you. Marina, you want to comment on this? Then I want to just go some comments and questions that we have. Thank you.
Yes, I'd like to clarify one thing where I do not agree to Ambassador. Ambassador knows that. I've said it repeatedly as the chair of the South Caucasus, orally and in my statements, but I'd also like to say it very clearly to everybody who's following this broadcast. There is no excuse for war, full stop. International law has nothing to do in that case when war is started. Because what Azerbaijan agreed to peaceful negotiations based on the OSCE Minsk principles. Yes, there are UN resolutions about territorial integrity of Azerbaijan, but to add, there are also principles that Azerbaijan itself agreed to. There is no excuse to war, full stop.
Okay. Thank you. I'm just going to read some quick comments and then we're going to go to wrap up. Tom Lyne says, surely a peaceful solution and Nagorno-Karabakh relies more on Armenia than Azerbaijan, as Armenia is the aggressor. I think we've covered that. No need to go back over it. And also Will Lavender remarks about to which extent do the panelists see Azerbaijan's role as a strategic energy supplier to the EU? Do you think it's been overstated? And he refers to the volume of gas supply coming from Azerbaijan to EU, and that's declining. And any further comments, just please add those right now, and we'll remark on those before we close. We're running out of time here at the moment, but it's clear we've talked about the conflict, there are clear differences of opinion on that. We've talked about reform process, the direction that's taking as well. Ambassador, are you optimistic about Azerbaijan's future relationship with the European Union and how the European Union can play a role? Or do you take the point that Amanda made that Europe and Turkey's relationship being such a low ebb right now makes the future a little darker?
Absolutely optimistic. I think that for me, it's a civilizational choice. Are we a European country or not? This agreement means a lot. That's why we are working on it. But when in all the statements of EU, in some kind of resolutions of EU member states, they're blaming us for the war, for liberation of our own territories, and blaming us as aggressors. It will never accepted, never forgiven, and never forgotten. That's why my proposals to my European friends to be the same line of optimistic cooperation and to work together for better life between Azerbaijanis and Armenians, Georgians, and create something unique on the Southern Caucasus, to create a small pilot EU similar project there. And it's possible. I am ready to participate in this process with all my dedication.
Thank you. We're just going to go 30-second final remarks from each of our panelists. Amanda Paul, the key message for you in terms of Azerbaijan and EU relations, what matters most? 30 seconds.
Yeah, I think what matters most is that they continue to maintain the strong engagement, that the EU actually prioritizes not only what it wants from Azerbaijan, but with the South Caucasus as a whole, because the EU really doesn't have a strategy priority for the region, and that they finalize the new agreement as quickly as possible, which can bring benefits for both sides. This should be the key thing on the agenda, and that the EU plays an important role in helping Azerbaijan reconstruct and rehabilitate the regions that are now liberated, in bringing peace and reconciliation to Armenian citizens, which will be a win-win, not just for the region, but for the broader region as well.
Thank you. Marina Kalyaran, 30 seconds. What matters most in terms of the EU-Azerbaijani relationship now?
The key is today in Baku and in Azerbaijan. We are open for closer partnership. It has to be comprehensive, cover all the different spheres. If you are willing to have a closer partnership, we are open to that, and I support it very much also personally. And Ambassador, my final message. Yesterday I had an excellent video meeting with women's organization, Tilla, Queen Tilla, and they asked me to convey to you to create a women forum in Nagorno-Karabakh, including women from both sides. So I'll send you an email describing it, and I hope that your government will consider it very carefully.
Thank you. Ambassador, last word, 30 seconds. EU-Azerbaijani future relationship, what matters most?
30 seconds. First, there are excuses for the war. For Mr. Churchill, for Mr. Roosevelt, when they liberated Europe in the Second World War, there were a real excuse for this patriotic war. But if we won the war, we should win the peace as well. And we're ready to do it, and we're ready to do it together with our European friends. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So thank you did extremely well, thank you. Thank our panelists today, Marina Kalyaran and Amanda Paul, and Ambassador Fad Iskandarov as well. Let me thank our team here at Euractiv, Jacques, Malta and Matteo for all the organisation. Thanks to our audience and for your participation online as well, and you've been tweeting on social media too. Thank you for that. I wish you a good morning. I'm Brian Maguire.